Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called Cycle Fit Chicks. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. All right, before we get started, make sure that you go to Secrets from the Saddle podcast.ca and sign up for our newsletter. It's not really a newsletter, but it's an email notification that will let you know every time an episode is released. So that's weekly, but if you go to Secrets from the Saddle podcast.ca, you will get an email notification so you don't have to always be checking the platforms. So make sure you do that and have an amazing day. Thank you. All right, everybody. This is going to be a super special episode because I have a new friend on Instagram. Her name is Jessica Mullins, and we were just DMing back and forth on Instagram about Leadville and XL, because Leadville is on my kind of to-do list, simply because I want the belt buckle to just be transparent about that. And she reached out to me about XL. And so we were trying to connect for a phone conversation. And I said, hey, do you want to do an episode about that? And so this is basically, we're comparing the two, XL, Unbound XL and Leadville. What does it mean? How to prepare? Just straight up conversation and questions between two women. And I hope you really enjoy this episode because I'm looking forward to it. So let's get into it. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie Day. And we have the amazing Jessica Mullins from Colorado. And this episode is a really, really cool one because I reached out to Jessica on Instagram about Leadville, and then she asked me about Unbound, and I can't remember which one was first, but then I said, yeah, let's just connect. I'll share my experience with Unbound XL, and you can share your experience with Leadville because it seems like she's done it multiple times, and it's on my bucket list. And then I was like, hey, because we couldn't get ourselves together to get on the phone. I was like, let's just do a podcast episode about this because I think Leadville versus Unbound XL, to me, it's kind of like on the same playing field because one's like mountain biking, and I know that there's gravel in there, but it's really mountain biking. And then there's the long endurance, like Unbound XL race that's just epic across the globe. And so I am so grateful, Jessica. Yeah, let's do this. And she is sitting, like I said, in Colorado. And I just really thank you so much, Jessica, for coming on. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and what she's up to right now, and then we're going to just get right into it. Take it away, Jess.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This is super fun. I'm relatively new to the cycling world. Maybe about 12 years that I've been riding a bike. I didn't ride a bike when I was a kid. I actually grew up and was a total ballerina. So I didn't do anything outdoorsy. I was all about ballet. And after college, I studied engineering in college. And then after college, I went into the Peace Corps. And I was a math teacher in West Africa. And it's while I was there that I discovered that I loved the outdoors and I loved being outside and I loved doing things outside. And so when I returned to the United States, I was like trying to figure out where I wanted to live. And the people I met the other Americans that I met while doing the Peace Corps were like, well, if you want to be outdoorsy, you have to move to Colorado. Like, okay.
Okay.
So I moved to Colorado to become outdoorsy. So
So here I am.
here I am. Yeah. So I moved out here in 2001, and I spent a long time doing rock climbing and mountaineering and ice climbing and a lot of that kind of stuff. And then had a kiddo, and that made going on day-long mountaineering trips challenging. Moved to an awesome neighborhood with some great single track, and I had occasionally ridden a mountain bike. It wasn't like I'd never ridden a bike before, but
not like Colorado riding, right?
Yeah. So
I imagine.
So I had a good friend who was like, hey, let's go on a wussy girl ride. That's what she said. And she was like 18 months pregnant. I was not a mountain biker. And she took me to Buffalo Creek, which is kind of one of the, very popular areas outside of the Denver area here in Colorado. So she took me to Buffalo Creek and said, we're going to do this chill girl ride. And I was like, okay, I had not actually literally been on a bike at that point in probably 3+ years. Like I hadn't even sat on a bike.
And she's pregnant. So you're like, this should be pretty easy.
Should be pretty easy. So about 4 hours into the ride, I'm out of food. I'm out of water. I'm like in tears. I am miserable. The whole ride took about 6 hours. And it was horrible. And I got home from that ride and I was like, I'm never mountain biking again. This was horrible. So
what, did you get lost? What was she thinking?
It was just, I guess, a bigger ride than she was thinking. It's a ride that these days would take me probably 3 hours.
Right.
But I would not, it was not a great experience. So I didn't get on a bike for a couple months. And then another one of my friends was like, hey, we got these trails, in Ken Carroll where we live. We should go on a mountain bike ride. And I was like, okay. And so this friend took me up there's a notorious climb in our neighborhood called Manor House. And it's a steep fire road. That's what it is. It's a steep fire road up. So she took me up this steep fire road climb, which is miserable. Like no one does this unless you're training for something or if everything else.
You didn't turn around? You're like, screw that.
Oh my God. So I went up this and it was just so not fun, and got back from that ride. And I was like, I am seriously never mountain biking again.
I need new friends.
Yeah, exactly. So fast forward a couple more months, and there was kind of a group of women who would ride in the neighborhood on Tuesday nights. And somehow, and I was in a book club with several of them. So they were like, you should really come ride with us. Like they had heard these other experiences and they're like, we promise you, it's not going to be like that. I'm like, okay. So I went on this ride and it was super chill. It was super fun. It was like women supporting women, riding bikes in a social atmosphere. It was not hard. We went over to someone's house afterwards and had drinks. And I was like, okay, I could do this. And so I went on a couple
I could do.
Yeah. I went on a couple more of those rides and I was like, all right, this is fun. I really like this. And it was good single track. And it wasn't straight up a mountain sort of thing to start. And it was just really fun. And that was it was late-ish fall when that happened. So I was kind of getting the bug into mountain biking, but then winter hit and I wasn't that into it. There's no way I was going to be riding in the wintertime at that.
Yeah.
Of my mountain biking. And right now, so mind you, the bike I'm riding at this point was a bike I bought when I moved to Colorado. So this is about 2013-ish. And it was a bike I bought in 2001 at Wheat Ridge Cyclery.
Yeah, I have one of those.
$500 on it, which I thought to myself, how does anyone spend this much money on a bike?
Crazy, right?
That someone would spend $500 on a bike. I was like, that seemed so expensive to me.
My first one was $700, and I put on. I remember when you had those layaway options where you could go and you could pay until you paid it off. That was mine, and I still have that bike, but I don't ride it. I just ride it to the coffee shop.
Yeah, I don't have this one anymore, but I over the wintertime was thinking, oh, I should probably get a new bike. And, so I got into it, and it was a little bit of a rough start getting into cycling, but then I realized I have a competitive spirit, and um my kids started preschool, so I was able to have some time where I could get out like a little like 2.5 hour block of time, and I would go ride my bike in the neighborhood and just started loving it. So that's kind of my origin story for cycling.
Okay, but like now you organize, like you have a team
Right,
and
yeah.
like you're competing and like, okay, how did that start?
So yeah, so I one of the women who was in this cycling group, she raced some, and she was
Okay.
like, "You should try racing."
I'm
And
like,
so I was like, "Okay." And so I lined up. It was
I
actually
love
funny. So
that. Okay.
I so my first race that I picked a race, and I picked the 60-mile distance mountain bike race. And
Oh,
I don't know why, like I'm someone who, bites it off big, I guess. And
likes it off big. I like that.
and it was called the Battle of the Bear. It's a race that doesn't exist anymore in its current form, Battle of the Bear. And I go that day, and it started pouring earlier that morning. And the trail conditions at this specific park do not handle rain. And so I got like a mile and a half into the race. My bike was not functioning anymore. They ended up calling the race and pulling everyone back. So that was
Okay.
my very first race experience. It was not, it
You
was,
didn't have to do the 100 kilometers. Oh
yeah,
my
it was
God.
pretty underwhelming.
Oh,
Um,
Jesus.
and then they gave me a transfer entry into another one of their races later that season called the Peaceful Valley Derby. So I
Well,
did
that
that
sounds
one.
more
Peaceful,
reasonable.
right?
Peaceful, yeah. I like that.
So it was 44 miles. I wanted to finish. I feel like my goal was like 5 hours or less, and I beat my goal, and I had a good time, and I was like, this is really fun. And I just I started just mountain biking all the time, and I love the technical challenge. I think it reminded me a lot of rock climbing.
Mm,
I was really into rock climbing, and then I got injured, and so I couldn't rock climb at the level I was rock climbing at, so I just stopped rock climbing. But that technical challenge, that trying to like clean something, that was really appealing to me in mountain biking. Um, so I think that's what really got me into it. And then I ended up joining a team that my friend was on, who got me into doing that first race, and then ended up switching to a different team that was kind of local. And that's the team I'm currently on, called About Racing. And over the years, that team, like I got more and more involved, and
right.
it was started as just an adult team. I think I joined it when it was in its like second or third year.
Like
Uh,
women or
so
mixed?
mixed, actually, mostly men, but some women. Um,
Sprinkle
and
of women.
yeah, sprinkle of women, exactly. Um, And then in 2016, there was a group of like neighborhood kids riding bikes who were looking to be on a team and get some sort of like support. And so About Racing brought on this group of juniors. Um, and I continued to get more involved. And then in 2019, I became the team manager and the executive director of our nonprofit. So that
Oh,
was
cool.
like 4.5 years ago. And 4.5 years ago, when I came on board, we had about 50 kids riding bikes with us. And this past year, we had 350 kids riding
Holy shit,
with
that's
us.
amazing.
Yeah. So, and we like, it's super cool because we're totally building this bridge. We start with 2-year-olds on Strider bikes, um,
Oh
all
my
the way
God,
to
I
like,
love it.
yes, it's so cute. All the way to like teens racing at the national level, winning national championships. So we offer
Hmm.
a full spectrum of programs, um, to build this bridge and take any kid where they want to go in cycling. So we offer recreational programs for those who want to do it at a recreational level, and then we offer race focused programs for those who want to race. And our team is focused in mountain biking and cyclocross. That's what our team focuses on. Um, I am a mountain biker myself, but I've dabbled in cyclocross, but it's not for me. It's way too short. So
You don't like that intense
uh,
hour?
yeah, I rather like, be like suffer long as you
Yeah,
race for like
like
many hours.
long out. Yeah.
Yeah, than red line for an hour. Like that sounds horrible. So yeah, I mean, um, I continued mountain biking, and in, let's see, last year, 2022, um, I won my age group for mountain bike nationals. So that was pretty fun.
Oh, awesome.
And then also I actually was in the next age group, aged up to the next age group this year, and won that. And it was last
Oh,
year that like I was starting to get more results mountain biking. And, even though I'm this like mid 40s mom, like with a full-time
don't
job,
undersell yourself, girl.
like I love it. Like, and I love being competitive. So I decided to apply to the Lifetime Grand Prix last year, thinking it was a total long shot. Like,
Did you
I
get in?
and so I got in. So I did the Grand Prix last year.
Oh, last year. Okay.
Yeah. So last year, and so I got into the Grand Prix. I was like, oh, well, I guess I need a gravel bike. I didn't have a gravel bike. I had never been on a gravel bike. I had never done a gravel ride. So I got a gravel bike. That was super fun. I kind of like put some feelers out, and um, acquaintance of mine, he is the CEO of Spot Cycles, and Spot was just coming out with this like brand new race gravel bike called the Rally, and he was like, "I'd love to get you on this bike," and so I was like, "Okay." And so I got bike one of that. Like it was their very first. I say that he has bike zero, but I have bike one of that bike. So, and I've loved gravel, so it's been fun. I mean, doing the Grand Prix was humbling at best. Like, I mean, lining up with, Sophia and Sarah and, Hannah, all these,
Yeah, Liz and
yeah,
yeah.
it's pretty crazy. And, I was definitely like back of the pack in that group of people. But, I was there, I was out there. I kind of would say, like, well, someone has to finish last at the Olympics. So, and I didn't finish
There's
last.
only one spot at the top,
Yeah, exactly.
like, and you just do your best. But that's like with the Grand Prix, no, yeah, the Grand Prix that, or sorry, Lifetime Grand Prix.
Yeah.
That's 7 events, right? And you
Yeah.
have to use 5 out of the 7, or you could do 5 out of 7 and drop 2. Which ones did you do?
So I did everything but the crusher in the Tusher.
Oh, okay.
And that one actually was because it conflicted with mountain bike nationals, um,
Okay.
which I didn't care that much about for myself, but because I run this cycling team, I was out at mountain bike nationals with the cycling team,
Right.
supporting all the juniors who were
Yeah.
riding there. So
Priority. Mhm.
make that one, but I made all the rest. And actually, one of the reasons, so getting to Leadville,
Yeah.
I actually only have done it once. One of the reasons I applied for the Grand Prix was to get into Leadville. So I've done all these big events. Like I've done the Breck 100 and the Bailey Hundo and the Firecracker 50 and the Breck Epic and a lot of these bigger local events, Park City Point to Point, which is a great race. And you say you're an endurance mountain biker, and any person who you say that to, they're like, "Oh, well, have you done the Leadville 100?" That's the question they ask.
Yeah.
And I would always be like, well, no, like, I'm not really that interested. It's not really a mountain bike ride. It's like on roads. And like, so I kind of was, not super stoked to do it, but I decided like like for 2023, I was like, I want to do Leadville now. I want to check it off the list. And if I, applied to the Grand Prix, that would make sure I got in. And like, I was like, well, sweet, I'll give that a go.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, so this
But then
past,
you have to do
I
everything else. Like you really have to commit
yeah.
to everything else.
And it was fun. I mean, it was a good time. It was almost going to be that my first gravel race was going to be the Unbound 200, but I was like, I really should do something before it. So I did do one gravel race before I did the Unbound 200.
Uh-huh.
I did this race called Co To It, which is here in Colorado. It's like I did 125 miles. So, and And actually, I've been loving, I mean, the mountain bike is still my true love, but the gravel bike is fun. It's a fun alternative. Um, and so, yeah, I did the Unbound 200, and the irony of it all is, after finishing the Unbound 200, anyone around me, I was like, don't ever let me do this again. This was the stupidest thing I've ever done.
Why did you feel that?
um,
I'm curious.
I mean, it's long, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of just silly to ride your bike for, 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the mud pits were pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially that one at mile 11 that has gotten all the press. You know, you're half hour into your race and you hit this mud pit and you're just like,
Yeah, I think that's just was unfortunate. No, like I don't know if it was planned like that.
yeah,
But that was last year. That
yeah,
wasn't this year.
yeah, that was
So,
this year. Like that was this year.
oh, you were in there this year.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't realize you did this year.
yeah,
Okay, so we're there together.
yes,
We crossed paths at some point. I'm
probably.
sure, like in the expo area.
Yeah,
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I guess I guess hitting that right at the beginning would have been like a absolutely motivation crusher. Because I hit it at 11 p.m. Friday night.
that seems like a pretty big motivation crusher right then. Although maybe like
Well,
not see it.
it's kind of funny because it's like pitch black, right? You cannot see anything in front of you. So you just are totally surprised that you're no longer moving at all on your bike. And you're like, what the hell is going on? And then you look over to the side and you just see all these lines in the grass. You're like, get off the grass, get off. Like, oh my God. And then it just keeps going and going. Like, and as soon as you get off the course, like you got so much mud, and then I always say, like, you bike off and then you pick up all the little rocks off the side. And then you hit into the grass, and then of course you look over and you're like, oh, that looks pristine, like we could ride that. As soon as you put your bike in it, it's like, okay, back into the grass.
Yeah.
Just like, but yeah, I think the darkness was something, because I was kind of like, there was me and one other guy or two other guys that kind of hit it at the same time. And then because I was at that point, I was like, I passed a ton of people at the first pit stop, a store. My goal was to fly by that, and I spent like 5 minutes there, and I passed like 30 people.
So I've got to know, like, what are you buying at the store? Like,
okay, so
people are joking with me because I'm a vegan, and people are like, you're gonna be eating roller dogs by the end of that race.
Oh God, yeah, seriously. I was like, all natural, blah blah, I'm gonna make my own stuff. Yeah, no, you will be eating that stuff. And so my strategy was, because I knew that was at 125K for me, 125 or whatever, 60, 70 kilometers, 70 miles. A lot of people don't bring food with them, like enough food, and they stock up at these stores. So they keep it light,
right?
Where and water as well. So I carried like 66 liters on my bike. I had 2 on my back and 2 in bottles. 4 bottles. I had 4 bottles and 2 liters in my back. And so I was like, okay, when I get to this, when I got there, like all these guys, like all these fast guys and girls were sitting there relaxing, filling up with their water, eating, buying stuff. I went to the bathroom. I think I filled up a little, I transitioned some water around, and I left. And I left all these people, like I was mid-pack. So, just thinking about that. So I brought all my own food. Like I just stocked everything. I wasn't really planning on buying too much because I knew exactly what my options were.
Right.
However, I did make my own, I made my own mix of some food that went bad in the
Oh,
sun by the time I got to it. And I did not even think about that. And
and what
so
kind of food was it?
I made so I've done this before, a sweet potato mix
Uh-huh.
that I put in like little squeezable pouches
Mhm.
that I can just eat on the go. And for whatever reason, I don't know, because I added more butter to them. And I'm not sure if that's was part of the factor, but by the time I got to them the next day, I probably should have eaten them right away. Or maybe it was the heat of the day Friday. I don't know. But they fermented and bloated up by the time I got to them. So I
Oh,
had 4 pouches, which is like 3,000 calories at least. And so I had to get rid of it. And then I was like, what the hell
devastating.
am I going to replace this with?
Oh my gosh, that's devastating.
Right. And so that's when I went in, I start buying cheeseburgers and I
Wow.
felt like a different person. Honestly, like, so I didn't want to do it. Like I went in, I don't want to buy sweets. I don't want to buy chips. Like I don't like want to have this bad gut. Um, I brought a lot of my own bars and like that I like. But I had to go and buy the cheeseburger and I ate it and I felt like I was Superwoman. And so I was like, okay, I get it. Like, but I didn't do like the chips and the multiple chocolate bars or the beef jerky, which would have been nice. I did bring some, I never touched it. Um, I had all these backups, but not enough like quality, high calorie stuff.
Right.
And so that was a big eye opener right there. But thankfully I like when I went to get it, I was just like, oh, it's like really puffy in here. And I'm like, that's not a good sign. And then I tasted it and I'm like, no, Sylvie, like, don't even go there because like
Right.
you'll end up vomiting and being like seriously sick somewhere in Kansas. So I just went into everything else that I had. And I was also banking on some infinite nutrition drinks, like high caloric drinks, and I didn't end up getting them either. So I was kind of like set back in my nutritional plan.
So what do you mean by like how were you banking on them and not getting them? Like you thought you could buy them?
Well, uh, I was supposed to pick them up somewhere in Canada. I couldn't like in Emporia,
Oh,
and I could not figure out where it was, and I couldn't find this said bike shop, and I couldn't contact the person who was supposed to sit there, so I wasn't able to pick them up. Um, and so I had to, but the thing is, what I did do is I bought a pizza before the race started. And I just like I packed that up, like I split it up and I packed and I ate that. Like it wasn't the yummiest, but I ate it. Anyway, so thankfully I had that in my arsenal of food, but I
yeah.
definitely do things a little differently next year for sure. Like I'd have that liquid nutrition for one in my bottle and just packages of it that I could easily put in with water. And I would
Yeah.
do the same thing.
I
Like
think
I
I might
would,
do that. Like when I did the 200, I had water in my pack and then I had flow formulas, a pretty heavy
mhm,
concentration of flow formulas in my bottles. So it was like about half and half water, half
mhm,
flow.
yeah,
It works out nicely because you don't always want something.
mhm,
Sometimes you just need water.
yeah.
Um, although in mud pit at mile 11, I used my entire camelback to
I
keep
know.
my bike and my chain to keep my chain to stay on my front because my chain kept falling off my front cassette because it was just a little too gritty and a little too like gunked up. And so I used all of my water.
Oh,
It was
so
terrible.
that was one thing that they recommended. Did you go in there with like a paint stick?
I did, yeah. So that was fine. And my bike has really good clearance. So,
Uh-huh.
but I had a relatively new chain. Um, and I think just getting a little bit of gunk like made the chain almost be a little bit too tight. And
Right.
it just kept kicking off the front cassette. And that's what
Uh,
took me the most time.
are you a one by in the front?
Yeah.
I switched to two by after like riding last year
So I
on
shouldn't
a
use the word cassette. Yeah, chain ring, my front chain ring.
yeah, it was just one.
Yeah, it's
I
annoying.
have two. I changed it up. I hated it. I absolutely hate because it anyways. And but I waxed my chain
Mm,
before going and nothing stuck to it or
that's
my cassette.
that's so
Like
awesome.
it was awesome because I was looking at everybody else's bike. I was like, "Oh, yikes."
Yeah.
I'm glad I took because they're recommending like if you're gonna go do it, you should wax your chain. I'm like, okay, I'll wax my chain.
Yeah. I'll
Like,
put that on my list for
oh God, it's so amazing, Jessica. Wax all your chains. Like, just don't ever go back. Like, set up the system and just do it because it's amazing. It sounds so quiet. And then you have your wax chain loop you just put on every now and then you do the whole clean system, like I don't know, 1,000 kilometers, put it back on, it just lubes up everything, like you don't have to do. But so tell me about Leadville, because Leadville I've heard is like there's some seriously thin, narrow, single track. Um, I've heard that I have a friend who's Mike oh God, but I'm blanking on my friend's name. Anyways, he's done it like 7 times. I want to say Bike Rendell. That's what his Facebook name is. But anyways, said he's like, you should go there a week ahead and climatize. Well, you live there, so it's not really a big deal. And climatize. But tell me about like the like training for it, like because you're a mountain biker. I'm not. I started mountain biking a long time ago. Um, I don't have an epic like new mountain bike. Um, so that would be something that I would need to get if I was going to go do that. But what is your experience with Leadville, like your first time?
Yeah, so I ended up doing the stage race first, the Leadville stage
I've
race.
heard that's a good idea.
Yeah, so my original plan before I, got into the Lifetime Grand Prix was that I was going to hopefully use the stage race to qualify. Um, and that would be my way
Oh.
to get a spot at the Leadville 100. Didn't end up needing that, but decided to do the stage race anyway because everyone said it's great. You basically ride the entire course over 3 days. The scene is super fun. There's like, rider meals every night. Like, and
Hmm.
it was fantastic. Like I actually the Leadville stage race, I highly recommend. It's a small, intimate group of people. It's not crazy, ginormous crowds like the Leadville 100, and they have like a meal after every, stage. And it's really fun. And it was fun to be able to totally see the full course, like get to
Yeah.
experience everything of the course. Um,
Is that 2 weeks before?
I think it was 2 weeks before. Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
sounds right.
Like
It's
three, was it 3 or 4 days or
it's
just
a 3-day race.
3 day? Okay.
You do 40, 20, 40 miles,
Oh, okay. Okay.
where the 20-day is not the short day because that has the huge
It's
climb.
the climb, yeah.
So, and I'm a
Mm.
mountain biker. And it's funny because you mentioned single track. There's like maybe 2 miles of single track on the entire course. There is no single track.
Oh, but is
Um,
that like I've heard it's like on the edge of some cliff. No?
I'm like trying to think of what would be on the edge.
I don't know. This is just what I've heard.
You
But
know?
I'm just like envisioning this thing. And
No.
maybe it's because I've seen some videos.
Yeah, no, the
Um,
one single track section is through like this field of sage. Like you're just
wow, really?
it's super fast and flowy, and inevitably you get behind someone who's not a mountain biker and you just want to like open
Blow
it up
past
and
them.
enjoy, and you can't. Uh,
I need to
but everything
step
else
aside.
is pretty much double track. But the thing that's crazy, and before I ever did this race, and even after, I'm like, who makes a mountain bike race and out and back? Like, that's so crazy.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because you have, oh my God. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
So, like, for a portion of the, so depending on who you are, and how
uh,
fast you are,
hmm
but I was pretty low on the Columbine climb when Keegan first went flying past me in the other direction. And I made a note of like where he was. I looked at my, time and like was like, all right, where's everyone else?
20 minutes later.
Right? Exactly.
Jesus. That kid is
Um,
unbelievable.
it is. So you're climbing up Columbine, and the low part of Columbine is like a nice dirt road. So the oncoming traffic is not really a big deal on that
Hmm
road, because it's nice wide dirt. There's no like line. It's just a nice dirt road.
Yeah.
But then you get to a more rugged, rocky place where you are trying to find lines, and then it's challenging because you have the oncoming traffic coming
Are there
down.
a lot of like crashes, like head
Well, I
on?
think everyone's just, it's self-preservation, so people stay
Right.
sides. Um, and so you end up walking stuff that you wouldn't walk because of
Right.
traffic and because you can't choose your line.
Right.
Mostly
Oh.
traffic. In the
hmm
stage race, I rode every single thing. Like I
hmm
never got off my bike in the stage race because there just wasn't as much traffic.
Right.
But in the 100, towards the very top of Columbine, I did have to get off and walk because the people in front of me were walking and there was no way to get around them because of the oncoming traffic.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. I remember hearing
that was
something
a
about that.
little interesting. I mean, and I still kind of stand by the fact that it's a little silly for a race to be an out and back, but I will say it's pretty cool to see the people ahead of you and then the people behind you when you're going back down. Like it's really kind of cool. And
You can kind of like seed yourself. I'm kind of like, okay, there's this many women behind
right?
me, this many women in front. You know what I mean? Like doing the count. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, exactly. So it was cool. And then, on your way down, I mean, the thing about Leadville and is that and this gets into why I'm considering Unbound XL is, there are people who show up for Leadville where
Mhm.
this is like their Everest.
Yeah.
Like I went to Leadville and I knew that unless something went wrong, which always could happen, but unless
Yeah.
something went wrong, I was going to finish this race. I didn't have any doubt, and I
hmm
felt pretty confident that I'd get the big buckle, like unless something went wrong, which I did.
Right.
Like, and so for me, like Leadville 100 was, it's a hard race and it's a challenge, but it's so inspiring to see these people who are just trying to make it by the cutoff, who are just trying to
Right.
cutoffs.
Yeah, because that's like a dead cutoff. Like you're
Yeah,
seconds past that, you forget it. You don't get that buckle.
yeah,
Like
and
I just want the buckle.
right, you'll get the
Sorry.
big buckle. You'll probably get the big buckle. Like it's I mean, and that's I mean, even just to make the first 40-mile cutoff, a lot of people start this race thinking it's a 40-mile race for me because all I like that's their
Yeah,
goal.
yeah. I would chunk it up like that myself.
Yeah,
And for sure, instead of looking the big picture, like I have to get to this at a certain time, and then the next one, like working all the way to the end instead of looking at the big picture.
yeah,
For sure. That's
and that's the
oh, go
stage
ahead.
race is nice to help you chunk it. So like
hmm
you've already chunked it in the stage race, and then you can
Yeah.
chunk it, for the day of.
Well, it's always nice to be able to know the trail,
Yeah.
I think that's a huge advantage for anybody in a first timer race. But I mean, like XL, you actually going to go out for like,
Right.
and you don't have the opportunity if, like somebody doesn't live close by to do all these different sections, right? But if you're going to go back, you got, if they don't change the course, you got like, what to expect.
Right.
And I heard the course is going to change in 2025, but I'm not coming back after I do this.
So wait,
Gonna do this, gonna finish it.
wait, the course for Leadville or Unbound's changing after
Unbound.
2025?
I heard,
Oh,
I don't
that's
know, somebody just posted that.
that's
Somebody said, like, is the course going to change? And then they said, and somebody said, to 2025.
well, and I know they're going north this year, right? For
Don't
2020,
tell me that.
right? So they're,
Well,
aren't they?
I have no clue. I just know, like, if it's the same course, it's the
I
same
don't think
course.
it's the same course. So because I think they alternate or do 2 years going south and then 2 years going north or something like that.
Oh, but in any way, like I have all these things that I'm going to change up regardless of the route. And you know what? Like Jessica, like I don't know how you felt like some people talk about the climbs. I'm like,
There were climbs,
where are the climb? Oh, I'm on climb. Oh, because it
right?
pops up on your Garmin. You're like, oh, this is the climb. I think the judge was like maybe the steepest, and I was like, okay, well, this is a climb, yeah. But it's not like something I'd no, I've done like lots of harder stuff
Yeah.
for sure.
Like
Like I climbed up that no problem.
as a
Um,
mountain biker in Colorado, like
you're
those,
like,
I know
okay,
climb.
yeah. But the nice thing about XL is that there are way fewer people. Obviously,
Right.
there's only about 197 who started on the start line this year. And I would prefer, even if it's longer, to do that than sit in 2,000 people, like do what I saw online, like, all the pictures from 2000, like everybody walking, like that to me would be like, I would do the extra distance just to be out of that.
Mhm.
You know what I
Now,
mean? Like,
what about not having the opportunity to like work together as much because there's like not that many
um,
people?
yeah, I mean, I did come across a couple people that I could work with, but like the odds of you finding somebody that's your speed is pretty slim. Like I did find at the very end, two guys that we actually ended up working with and together, and they were in the 200. Um, and but that was nice. But at the end of the day, you've got to get yourself there. And I rode with a couple people, but they just weren't that. And this was another eye-opening experience that I realized afterwards is that they kind of like I slowed down to stay with them.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Because I was looking for someone to ride with and talk with, where I should have just left them. Like they didn't have the same goal as me. Like, this one of these guys who's from London, England. And I'm like, oh my God, you're here, dude. Don't you want to finish? Like you came all the way for this. Like, why are you not excited about this? And I think this was like probably, you know, 200 miles in. I'm like, well, no, it couldn't have been. He wasn't doing the 200 miler. So, but I was just like, oh my God, like, why don't let's work together? And he's just like, honey, you know, but I slowed down to his pace where I should have just like cut it and just left. Like he
right.
wasn't into it. And so I should have just went on my way. And that was one of the things that I wrote down after as like something that I would do differently is that I would, if I came up to somebody or somebody came up to me, they would have to be like 100% going for the finish. in order to ride together. And then I'd have to be like up to their pace. If they're too fast for me, like I would not be able to sustain myself at a fat, like these two guys, super like, I was just like, I'm gonna blow myself up trying to keep up with them. And nor do I want to like hold them back. So,
Right.
and just being okay biking by myself, like getting self-motivated, I find is another thing. It's like I had some pretty, I wouldn't say low moments, they're more pain oriented. Like my feet were like so sore, like I could hardly pedal, and my crotch was like just unbelievably on fire. Like I would stop on the flats and just walk because like I just couldn't. So bring extra shorts. Like
Right. And I
don't.
changed my shorts. I changed my full kit, shoes,
Yeah,
everything.
but you guys
I
had
had
like
support,
yeah, and you could just
right?
drop everything.
Right.
But
I
XL, you have to
know.
carry everything with
I
you.
I
So
know, which is crazy.
put an extra pair of shorts or two in your bag.
Yes.
Because it's totally worth carrying them. Because it rained. Like when we started,
And the
it
mud gets everywhere.
we were soaked in the first 2 hours. So therefore you got 30 plus hours riding in wet gear. And it like hands down, I left them. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna bring some. No, it's only 30K, 30 hours. I'll be okay. I'm like, oh my God, so stupid. And bring ibuprofen. I don't usually take drugs, but at some point of that race, I was like, how do I get rid of this pain? And I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I not buy some? So I asked some guys that I came up to, I said, hey, do you guys have any like Tylenol or, and they're like, yeah, here. I passed it. I'm like, I took 2 of those and I felt like a new person again. Like, all the pain went away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jesus, like you just some things you just do not think about. So like the shorts, the ibuprofen, I'm gonna bring McDonald's with me next time. That stuff never rots, like it never goes bad. I'm sure if it's been sitting in the sun, it's okay. You know what I mean? And I would next time I will bring like an electric cooler. I don't know why I didn't bring one, but I did ice. I'm like, why not just borrow my dad's electric cooler? I just plug it in, right? Electric cooler, because I camped. I was at the campsite.
Okay.
It was
But
amazing there.
you're not bringing an electric cooler on your bike, right?
No, but to like to have all my food cooled
Right.
like the other days, like leading
Yeah.
up to it,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Because like I had to rely on ice and things like that. It was so unrealistic. So next time
How
I'll
are
plug
your
in.
hands afterwards? Like, I feel like you said, your feet. Like for
Oh,
me,
my hands were fine.
my hands and my feet after the 200 were like so unhappy.
No, I don't remember anything about my hands. Oh, one thing I had a lot of things that I had, but I didn't bring. Tri bars.
Mm,
You're allowed tri bars in the XL, and I had them, but I decided not to because I didn't have like it was just taking away space from other stuff like
right.
my Garmin, all the other things, but I missed those. Like people who were passing me were in like a tri position and they look so freaking comfortable. Like I tried to stretch out as much as I could and you just lean right in and your cadence just changes. Like the speed increases over sitting up and like trying to like, oh, I'd get yourself uncomfortable. I put those on.
Interesting. I've never ridden with those ever.
Well, I don't really either, but the thing is that, just because it's a lot of long flat stuff. At the end of the day, there's rollers, there's some like chunky rock climbs and then fast down hills, and then you just get on roads.
Hmm.
Roads, roads, roads. And you're by yourself. And then so being able to have the option to like change your body position on your bike was just huge game changer. Like,
Absolutely.
so when I was thinking about that, I'm like, oh my God, Sylvie, you should have put just you should have just made it work. But what I was seeing, a lot of people, they had modified bike handlebars that were elevated so everything would fit underneath, like your bike computer, your phone, like all these, like your lights, like all these other things. Or they created their own tri-bar. Like I heard some people did some 3D printing
Oh,
to
wow.
create, yeah, like an extension. So like your bars are that far up off your handlebar so that you could fit everything else underneath it.
Uh-huh.
Or they had like a little bar across the top where your light would go, and all these things. So I would definitely be doing that.
Yeah. If anyone's listening to this and they want to do the 200, to your point of like bringing stuff like for the 200 at those aid stations,
Mm-hmm.
have so much stuff. Like have a whole new kit, like have new shoes. Like I changed my
Oh my
shoes
God, really?
and it was amazing to just put on a different pair of shoes. Like and they're totally different. So it was a different pair that rubs you a little bit differently and it was so nice to just have a different type of shoe on. So on these really long races, I like to, have, all sorts of options of things in case I feel like I need them.
Okay, what kind of like special food did you have at your checkpoint, like your
So
transition area?
I didn't do much for special foods. I fueled that entire race on flow formulas in my bottles and chews, mostly
Oh,
blocks. That's all I ate the whole time.
oh my God. Mm.
Yeah.
Uh,
So when I'm racing my bike, usually chews is the only thing I really want to eat.
are those what brand?
So I mostly use the Cliff Blocks,
Oh
not
yeah, they're not too
because
bad, huh?
I don't love them the best, but the packaging is the easiest to eat out of.
Packaging is so key.
Yeah. I actually really like Honey Stinger way better. But their packaging is more challenging.
Oh, like the wafers?
No, the chews, the Honey Stinger
Oh,
chews,
okay.
I think are way.
Yeah, if anybody's listening in the industry, packaging is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, maybe
Like,
like
yeah, the Cliff Bars, they come in that long wand kind of
yeah,
thing, and you just sort of like squeeze it out
yeah,
instead of like having to like dig into
dig
like
in,
the
yeah.
the bag and opening up the bag. And I'm just like, oh God, like I
And
love
also
these.
you pre-open everything, like, so I use a scissors and open all of my packages ahead of
Yeah,
time, so I don't have to open them while I'm riding.
wow, that's a good idea too.
I actually just on Wednesday on my ride finished the last of my opened gummies
Oh,
from Big Sugar in October.
oh my
Because I
God.
ultimately like bring a little bit more than I end up eating, and so I have them open and then I stick them in a Ziploc bag for another ride. And I finally ate my last chews from Big Sugar the other day.
Oh no, I gotta go and buy the box. Like a
Well, no,
full new.
well, I have actually plenty, but they were the open ones that were
Oh,
open from Big Sugar that I just been saving because I didn't want to throw them out.
okay. So let me ask you about training for Unbound. No, sorry, for Leadville. So let's just say, like I started off mountain biking. I'm getting back into mountain biking. I have like the endurance back end. Like what would I do for training and sort of like getting into technical, like how technical are we talking about for
Not
this?
very. Like if you're a solid cyclist who knows how to handle a bike, which you do,
Hmm.
it's not.
Okay, so then
To
what would
me,
the training be like?
yeah, I mean, like to me, descending like on a gravel bike is often sketchier than any of those mountain bikes.
Yeah.
Of course, that's coming from me being a mountain biker, so I feel more comfortable on a mountain bike.
Yeah.
But they're like descending power line. You have to just watch. You have to be careful. But there's nothing uphill that's particularly technical. I mean, I would think the biggest thing that would be different, you're already going to be training for like gravel stuff. So you're going to be getting like all of that training is going to help. I would say the biggest thing is being able to do steeper climbs, and
Okay.
it's so which feels very different, which for me is way easier. Like I am so much stronger on a steep climb than a flat gravel road. Like
Okay.
that's where I need to work on my training, is I need to work on keeping,
The endurance base, like the
yeah, I
speed
I
on the
get
flat.
complacent. Like if it's flatter, I kind of just like I stop working as hard, like without realizing.
Oh.
Whereas
Huh.
if you're on a steep climb, like you have to keep
Hmm.
working hard because it's a steep climb. So finding steep climbs, I think, is the biggest thing. Like that you
Now, what is the distance for a steep climb? Like say that like Columbine is
yeah.
the climb. Like how long does it take? Like is it a
Well,
20-minute?
yeah. So Columbine is the climb, but also Powerline is also another climb to know.
Are
Um,
they on the same circuit or two different ones? Well, I
so
guess in Leadville it's like the whole thing.
yeah.
But
So you hit Columbine. So you you leave Leadville and you do a few smaller climbs before you descend the big power line.
oh, okay. So that
Then you
power
hit
line's first.
the descent of it is first.
Oh.
Because remember,
Oh.
it's an out and back, so you're going to climb back up it later.
Oh, even in the full race for
Yeah.
Leadville?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like you go out a little lollipop, come back, and then go somewhere else?
No, you like literally go 50 miles this way and 50 miles back.
Oh, okay.
And that's not totally accurate. There are a few places where it diverges, but essentially, big picture, it is 50 miles and 50 miles right back the way you came.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually like 52 miles, I guess, because it's like 104 or something.
Okay.
But so Columbine starts, and the whole Columbine climb is probably at least an hour,
Oh, okay.
but it's pretty chill for the first 40 minutes. Uh, maybe like
Oh my,
you're on a like, just a dirt road that's a pretty
that's like just a
chill,
continuous like
yeah,
grade going up.
yeah,
Okay.
continuous mellow grade. And then
Right.
when it starts getting a little bit chunkier and steeper, like maybe you spend about 20 minutes, and these are rough memory numbers, but maybe about 20 minutes going up the harder
Hard
stuff. And then
until you hit the top.
you descend all that. And then it's about mile 80-ish where you have to climb back up this power line that you descended.
Oh, okay. So
And
is
that's the
common.
worst,
Oh,
I
okay.
think.
Is it steeper, shorter, steeper?
It's steeper, but it's probably still like, I don't know. It's probably like 20-minute climb. Um, and it's steep. It's steep, steep. And you have like so many false summits, like 13 of them or something, where you like think that's the top, and then you get there, and then you're like, oh, maybe that's
Oh, so are you talking like 16%? Like, do you know the grade?
I am sure that there's stuff that probably gets to like 20%
Oh,
in pieces. I would guess.
right.
Um, it's like I was able to ride up the whole entire thing. And, for strong cyclists, I think most strong cyclists are, but a lot of people, like, that's just impossible to ride
I
the whole
think
thing.
it's also your gear range
For
as
sure.
well that you have
Yep.
on your bike.
Yeah. And I yeah, I have like good easy gears, mostly because I do so much climbing here in Colorado that like I have good easy
I
gears.
was like, this is the required cassette for
Yeah.
this area.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So what's the highest? Is it like a 45?
Oh, no, on my rear cassette goes to a 50.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which is standard. Like it's an Eagle. So it's like a standard Eagle cassette. Some of them go to 52, but I have a 50.
Holy shit.
And
So
I
what's,
think my front chain ring is a 32.
I was just going to ask 32, 52. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I can go up some pretty steep stuff.
Yeah. How do you find like going down? Like,
I love descending. I didn't used to when I first started mountain biking. I was terrified, but now I love going downhill on my bike. But in races, I actually, it's that
It's different. You got to
But
worry about everybody else around you.
you got to worry about other people around you. You also don't want to like, when you're descending power line in Leadville, you're like maybe 20 miles in. Like
Mm,
I don't want to be crashing 20 miles in.
right.
Like that would suck. Um
You don't want to do something crazy.
so, trying to be smooth and smart without being reckless, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the thing. Like, did you watch people around you kind of like end up crashing or like having serious mechanicals because they were just not managing themselves well, or like they're just doing like you said, reckless things? Like you see
Yeah.
people around you
I'm trying to think if I saw people crash at Leadville. I don't remember. I
or
might have, but I
anybody,
don't remember.
some,
Um,
did
but yeah,
anything happen?
I've
Like
definitely
people,
seen people have mechanicals for sure, and
yeah,
I think some of that is, some mechanicals is less your fault, and some is definitely more user error. Like, well,
yeah,
you were riding pretty aggressively for the tires you were running. You know?
yeah. Oh yeah, tires. We'll talk about those in a second. And it's the same with like Unbound. Like I saw people, and I can't even imagine having a mechanical at night. But there were
Oh my God,
plenty of
you're right.
people. Yeah, like there was so many people around us, like flat tires, like flats, and broken chains and broken derailleurs. And but the thing is that a lot of that was because like the chains and the derailleurs, because you're just trying to like get through, like bike through that muck.
Right.
And it at some point you're just like, okay, it's not, it's a no-go. Like get off and
Right. It's
start
not worth
walking.
it.
Or
Yeah.
you could even bike in the grass
Right.
very slowly, because there was very few people,
Right.
right? Like it wasn't like an ant like a line of ants, like the 200, where it's just like
Right.
hundreds of people following each other. No, there's like maybe a couple spattering of us like on the sides, like well spaced out. Um but there, I just remember this one kid, and he was a kid, and he had like 3 flats. Like he would flat, we'd pass him, then he'd pass us, then he'd flat again. And it was just like that, like throughout the night. And he just like was devastated. Like
Oh,
he's like, I don't know. But I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, have you, like, because there's like his bike was so muddy. Like, how do you not get mud in there? Or how do you like find what is causing your flat? Like, because there's so much mud on your tire. Like you need to, like, this whatever is sticking in your tires, obviously still sticking in your tire, because you keep getting flats down the road. And like I went to tubeless, which was a high recommendation. I've never done it before. I did it myself, and glad I did, because I didn't have any mechanicals. Um, and I played it smart because
did you ride with inserts in?
no,
Okay.
I brought them.
Yeah.
I brought them just in case, but the the liquid inside your tubeless tires is important. So
They're fresh.
yeah, yeah. So when I was getting, like, I had a friend come over to just check my bike to make sure everything was okay, like, because I had done a little bit of work myself, and just like, just want to make sure everything's okay, and gears are working well, and he was like, so what kind of liquid do you have in your tires? Do you have like race sealant or regular? And I was just like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, race sealant has like carbon fiber, like it's got stuff in it so that it seals from the inside, and it creates like a little mold around the hole. And I was like, oh, I don't think so. It's like, but then like at Barry Roubaix, and this is what I did the very last second before I went to start, is I had this race sealant that had walnuts in it. Like, don't ask me. I think
Okay.
I got it at Berry Roubaix. But the substance that was in it was crushed walnuts.
Huh.
And I I emptied that jar in both my tires, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna be good. As I'm like, I think I should put this stuff in there and just mix it with whatever's in there. Um, right. And the funny thing is that like like somebody said, well, at some point in time you have to take those tires off and like just do a little clean inside and reset everything. So I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So the other day, probably like last month, I tried to take these tubeless tires off. And the thing is that I'm sure there's a technique that I'm totally missing. But when I was trying to get off the rims, the
Mhm.
two sides stuck together, like the tire. And I'm like, that's because all the sealant inside is like sticky. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just like gonna leave this to another day. So because some people say like you take it off and you can see the holes that were plugged, right?
Pretty cool.
From the sealant. And I'm like, oh man. So it would be really cool to see if I actually had some sort of flats during the race and they were plugged up, like they were sufficiently filled with the
Yeah.
sealant.
Yeah, it is fun. It's fun to see. You see these little like rubber balls.
Yeah. So I do like it. That's something I really do need to take off and check out instead of like just continuously pumping sealant in there, which you should do on a regular basis.
Right.
Because it does stick and then it's less. And now my bike is sitting around and not doing anything. And it's probably like all congealing right at the bottom.
Yeah, and here in like a dry climate, it like dries out faster here in
Oh,
Colorado.
yeah. Dries out.
Yeah.
It gets used up because it sticks around. And so it's just those little things that you don't think about, like, you know, and you learn as you go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of learning. I mean, and I think that every race is a learning opportunity, and there's always something that comes from, each race that you're like, okay, well, I want to do that better for this next thing, you know?
Yeah.
And, one of the,
Mm.
like I was saying before, one of the reasons of considering the 350 is like to have that Everest, to have that thing, and it was from watching like From the Ground Up, which is that series on YouTube, which I highly recommend. Check it
The
out.
ground up.
From the Ground Up.
From the ground up. Okay, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
write that down.
It's hosted by Alexi and Matt, and they they take people who are like beginner cyclists and train them and get them ready for Leadville.
Oh,
So it's really inspiring. And these people, to do Leadville is such a big deal for them.
yeah.
And that's what makes me be like, well, what's my Everest? What do I want to do? And that's where I'm thinking, do I want to try this Unbound XL? Like, is that my Everest?
Mhm.
And it's I'm torn because, there's that, I don't know, wanting to accomplish something that you don't know you can finish is super exciting. But I also worry about like destroying my body. Um,
Uh,
like a little bit.
well, so like I'm 52. So that was also a big concern for me as well. Like,
Uh-huh.
how am I going to feel afterwards? Well, I
Right.
can tell you that my legs were like uber sore for like 2 days. And I had to drive back to Canada
Uh-huh.
like over 5 days, which was fine. And I chunked it up and I camped at different campsites on the way and I got some good sleep because the next weekend I was doing an event
Oh
in
gosh.
Toronto. I know, and I was like, because when I set it up, like it just happened that way, and I'm like, oh, it's a charity ride, like it's a charity event for cancer, and it's 2 days, so it's 100K and then 125, and I'm like, oh, that'd be easy. But I'm like, oh my god, how am I gonna feel
Right.
after that? So my crotch had a whole week to like recover. My feet were in different shoes, like, and I slept and I ate And I was in a way better place than I thought I would be.
That's awesome.
And like for Unbound, I finished 500 kilometers. So I got to the last checkpoint and they said that I couldn't continue. And I was fully right. Like I only had 60K left. I'm like, what's 60K when I just did like 500, like,
Right.
well, if there's more mud, woo, like, um, so, I know I can get that far. It's just like, I was just the time. Right. And then I look back at all the things that I did and I'm like, yeah, I totally see where um, you know, I had wasted time. And, you know, and so there's a lot of things that I can improve too. I mean, training helps too.
Right.
Um, I was fine during the night.
Uh-huh.
Totally cool. Like I did a lot of night training.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because having good lights, number one, backup lights, your battery pack, like all these things, um, so that you can travel fast. Right?
Mhm.
If you don't have good lights, I mean, there's no excuse not to have good lights these days.
Right.
I started adventure racing and I have that background of
Right.
like 36-hour races. And I was just like, man, this is just like a 36-hour adventure race. Like I got that checkpoint, that checkpoint, that checkpoint. Oh my God, we're almost done. And it's like, and it's through 2 nights. So, um, you know, having that backup, feeling comfortable at night, feeling comfortable by yourself. I never listened to any music or anything. Like I was just taking in everything around me.
Yeah, I
Like I was just
totally
like, holy crap, I'm in like buttfuck Kansas and look at this place. And my motivation was really it changed over the whole race. Like get to the next checkpoint. I'd come across people that were like had pulled the plug in the middle. I don't even know where we were, but when you do that, like you have to get to somebody to pick you up wherever that is. And that scared me even more than anything else. It's like making sure my bike was okay. And like I didn't not want to be like pulling the plug in the middle somewhere and having to walk my bike like 10 miles.
Mhm.
And so that scared me and that motivated me a lot. And then I went through like thinking about my kids and all these other things and then like just fucking finishing. And like it goes through stages like where you are in that
Right.
event. And you know, and I just, I was okay when I finished because I was with those two guys. And the funny thing, Jessica, like when so we're finishing this last section to the last town, which I think was Hamilton. That was the last like time cutoff. And these race organizers were going in and picking people up because people just like bailed like right in the middle of the course. I mean, it's flat. Like, why can't you make it back? Like, honestly, I just don't understand. Like, I never not finish anything. Um, and then they had pulled, so they were going back and forth passing us, like we continued riding. And then they came back out and they're like, you missed the cutoff by an hour and a half. Your race is over, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, okay, I guess race is over. And these guys had one of their wives was their support crew. And so when she came in, like she pulled up the car, she had out the bins, she had out the recovery drink. Like honestly, they were changed before I even turned around. And it was so funny. Like she handed me this recovery drink. I took a sip. I was like, mm. And but like if they weren't there, I would have had to continue because I had no way home. I had
Wow.
nobody to call. Like there was a couple people who gave me their phone numbers and but the funny thing is that I texted them but they never responded. So I'm like, so really, I had to get myself home.
Wow.
And that's another thing, right? Like if there's nobody there to pick you up, you just have to finish. You have to, unless like some sort of really bad thing, you can't take care of your bike. So if you got chain links, you got an extra chain, you got an extra derailleur hanger, hopefully you don't break spokes, but people continued on with broken spokes. Like I had stuff for my tires. Like there was really no excuse for me to not be able to finish unless like I was certainly broken from the inside,
Right.
and if you've done all this racing, Jessica, you can do it. Like
Hey,
seriously, you
am
just
I
like,
stupid enough to do it? There's the question.
no, it's stupid. That's such a bad word. No. Okay, you know what I did that made it a huge benefit to me? And I don't know if I hold on, let me just see.
All right.
Okay, everybody, I'm just looking in my file cabinet. I have something to show her. Hold on. If it's right here. I don't know. Anyways, it's somewhere. But what I did, Jessica, is I went and I bought a atlas map
Uh-huh.
and I cut out all the pages and I put the race course together.
Uh-huh.
It was this big. So, but the thing is that I had a full visual
Of where you were
of
or
where I was
Mhm.
and where I was going. So to me, I knew exactly where I was. Like there are certain, like there's cities, like little cities that we had to go through. So,
Mhm.
okay, I knew where I was on the course. There were like like river crossings. So I knew where I was. And so that helped a lot. And I'd marked it out like, okay, I'm going to be at this checkpoint, like at this time. It's these many kilometers and things like that. So I never really accessed it. But if worst case scenario, like my Garmin had crapped out,
Right.
then I would be kind of able to figure out
How to get
where I
somewhere.
was. It wasn't that detailed, but you know what I mean? And so having that and just like looking at it all the time, like before the race, like I had it with me, I brought it with me, um, was huge
Yeah.
for me. Like just seeing the big picture, because I find, when you go for these rides and you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure exactly where we're going. It's harder to put everything together and kind of like, so I just like, okay, first 125 kilometers, next 125 kilometers, 80, 60, 60. And then you're done.
That's it.
That's it.
Big
Oh,
deal.
you've ridden that much. You got 125 kilometers, which is like, 60 miles. You've
Yeah.
done that.
80
You've
miles.
done that a couple times in a row. You got a
Yeah.
couple, 45 miles, like, so
And
if you look at that,
who needs sleep?
I only slept 15 minutes.
Did you actually sleep? Huh?
Oh, I did. I slept
Yeah.
like a rock. I'm really good at power napping at the home here. So like when I'm feeling tired, I put my alarm on and I just like, I was like, no, nobody talk to me for like 15 minutes.
That's
And then I
awesome.
wake up a new person. I don't know if you're good at that, but I started that like when I was 16. Party all night, work all day, nap, party, work,
Yeah.
school. But um, but yeah. But so like with Leadville, did you look at the elevation and were you able, like, I mean, I know you're really close, but for anybody, so like myself, um, what would you recommend? Like, I just want to go back to the training because it's all about training on like certain, like training certain parts of the course.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if you can go up there and ride the course and ride it in parts, that would be amazing.
Hmm.
But just, training by riding, you know, places with big climbs. Like you just need to get good at big climbs.
Yeah,
That's something that's just critical. And that's right in my wheelhouse, and I do that all the time. Like
I know
that's
it's in your backyard.
yeah.
For
So
us, I think it would be like hill repeats on some sort of small ski hill.
yeah, possibly. Because that's what I mean. You need to be able to do, big
Hmm.
steep climbs.
Yeah.
So that's important. I'm pretty haphazard about my training. I'm not very structured. Um, I ride my bike because I love to ride my bike. Um,
Yeah.
and I ride with friends a lot. So I don't stick to a structured training plan because then I wouldn't be able to ride with friends and that fills my soul. So,
Hmm.
my perspective on racing is very much like I want to just have fun out there. I want to love to ride my bike. I want to connect with people. Um, I'm not, you know, making a career out of this. I just want to do it for fun. Like that's why I do it. I do it because it's fun. Sometimes type 2 fun, sometimes type 3 fun, but still I'm doing it for the fun. I'm not doing it to like pay the bills. So
Okay, so how did you feel? Like, let's get into you joining Lifetime Grand Prix because um what was that experience like with them, that organization being a rider? Like,
it was
I didn't
generally
realize, I
good.
guess, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was generally really good. Like I felt like we were well taken care of. Uh,
Okay, so that's important. Like,
yeah, and I felt like it got more so like towards the end. Like I think that, and part of that was, you know, things that the riders, excuse me, organized. You know, leading up to Big Sugar, which was the last race, Haley Smith organized like all of us women in the Grand Prix getting
oh, that's cool.
together. And that was super fun. It was, and we were saying we should have done that like at the beginning of the Grand Prix,
Hmm.
like so we could get to know each other. And I hope that they do something like that. I did not apply to the Grand Prix this year, and I'm not doing it because I want to choose my own races this year. But um,
Would you
you know,
say it's a great experience for anybody who wants to be able to travel and race? Like, did you find that you were kind of burnt out by the end of all of it?
I don't think I got burnt out, but again, I think my approach to training has something to do with that. So I, you know, could I have had better performances if I trained more structured? Absolutely. But that was not my goal in life this year. So
See, yeah, so you were able just to attend and enjoy, like, obviously you're
yeah,
not racing for top 5 or top
right.
3. And
Yeah,
that's a difference in
totally.
training, that's a difference in
Yeah.
intensity level when you're racing.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to finish and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's not very much off your body, I would say.
Yeah.
How much
So
does it cost you to travel and do all those races, by the way?
I
Because
never
that's
added
a
it
lot
up.
of time away
I don't
from
know
the.
that I want to. So the Grand Prix pays for the race entries, so that's really great.
Okay, that's a
Yeah,
plus,
obviously
yeah.
travel. I only had to fly to one of them. No, two of them. I flew to two of them. So obviously that, adds probably $700 to $1,000 with flight and rental car.
Mm. Mm.
So yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It was a great experience, and I'm just looking for like what the next experiences are. What do I want to do next? And I think that it gave me good perspective for this year wanting to choose my races and pick what makes my soul happy. um and that's my goal right now, and it's hard because all these races are opening for registrations now, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm ready to choose yet, but I kind of have to be.
I don't think everything will fill up like Barry
Yeah,
Roubaix did.
yeah.
Fuck.
So
I was done in like 24 hours. I was lucky to get in. But
yeah,
that's in Michigan, so that's a bit far for you.
yeah.
Um,
But
I have another one. So if you do Excel
uh
in August, you can come up and stay with me. There's a Canadian No, it's a gravel backpacking challenge, and it's in
Oh,
Quebec,
wow.
and it's 500 kilometers.
Wow. I'm doing the Breck Epic in August. That is the one race I know I'm doing.
Where's that?
In Breckenridge, Colorado.
Oh, okay. Well, your
It's a six.
backyard. Yeah,
It's a
this one's in my
6-day.
backyard.
Yeah, it's a 6-day mountain bike stage race. It's super fun.
Oh,
So
cool. See, I like maybe get myself a proper mountain bike. I just ride like my very old mountain bike and the kids' mountain bikes, which are a little bit small for me.
yeah,
But
but
it is nice to be on a 29er, I have to say. Like, but so this has been awesome.
great.
I hope everybody who is listening got kind of like a good visual on both of these events, like Leadville compared to XL. Because I have to do Leadville and you have to do XL.
We'll
And
see. I'll keep you guys posted. Follow me on Instagram and I'll let you know if I decide to go
she's
in.
good. And then I'll help her succeed.
Awesome.
Hopefully it'll make sure that I cross the finish line too. But thank you so much, Jessica. And yeah, I'm sure like if you do decide, I'll help you the training, the night riding, the packing, like
Okay.
all these cool things that kind of need like start in January, February.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so make sure you follow Jessica on Instagram. What's your handle on Instagram? Is it
Jessica MTB 37.
all right there, Jessica MTB 37? That'll be in the description. And Secrets from the Saddle podcast on YouTube and Instagram. And you can follow myself on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Like, I don't know, everywhere. Just Google my name, you can find me. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have an amazing day. And thanks a lot for making the time for me, Jess.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah.
I enjoyed the conversation because I was super curious. Getting a female's perspective is way different than a men's, I have to say.
Totally.
I think it's more honest than a guy's.
Yeah.
So that's why I appreciate it. Now I've got a much better picture than what I had in my head before. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next episode. All right, friends, what did you think about that? What are your takeaways with regards to long endurance riding, or if you were thinking yourself about doing XL, or do you have any more advice for me or for Jessica with regards to Leadville and XL? I would love to hear your feedback on YouTube. So hopefully you're listening to this on YouTube, or you can also DM Secrets from the Saddle podcast or Sylvie _cyclist on Instagram and share your comments. Because I'm always trying to get some more engagement with regards to this podcast and the episodes. So I love to get this conversation started. So let's do it, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed that episode, and we'll see you on the next episode, I guess, podcast. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day, make sure you ride your bike, and don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.